Hi everyone. Those of you who have been watching my program for a while will recognize this tree. We repotted it into this oval pot just last year. The pot is good for the tree in that it follows the correct theoretical proportions that a bonsai pot should follow. The width of the pot is approximately 2/3 the height of the tree, and the depth of the pot top to bottom is equal to the thickness of the trunk at the base. Yet somehow this pot doesn't quite have sufficient visual mass for this juniper. Now if you'll recall, before this it was in a rectangular pot that had too much visual bulk, and somewhere there has to be a happy medium. This year I found this oval pot, and this pot is very slightly larger than the pot that it's in now. And it also has a belt around the middle outside which increases its visual bulk. So we're going to try it in this pot and see if we get a better image that way. Now looking at the tree, you can see it's grown nicely in this pot, and you can see it's also had some work done since we originally repotted it. Most significantly, we took off nearly half of the first branch and created a new area of deadwood. So now the problem is to get it into the pot, and also to get it into the pot at the right angle. The final defect we want to try to address today on the tree is the fact that it leans a little too far forward, and I'll show it to you here from the side so you can see this. Now this was something that has been a problem through previous repottings, and it's partly because the individual who had it before me potted it that way, and it's partly because there are problems with the roots that we couldn't resolve completely in one potting. And this repotting, we're going to take off this root here, which appears to be dead, and we're going to also look at these, and hopefully we'll be able to get this into the correct position this time without too much trauma to the root. The tree's root ball has colonized the old pot quite well, which shows us that our soil mix is working precisely as intended. So it's not going to take too much trouble. Just break up the edges here. The soil mix is still in very good shape, as it should be after only a year. So this should be a pretty simple little break, wash, and root prune. The roots have grown vigorously. You can see they're actually starting to lap the pot on this side. So it's actually a good thing that we decided to repot this one after only a year. It'll aid tremendously in further development of the tree. We're going to follow our standard root pruning practice here with one variation, and that is, in order to tilt the tree, we have to thin out the bottom of the root ball on the back of the tree because it's going up from the front side, and then we have to work on the top of the root ball on the front side. But the first step is to take off all the long roots. Okay, we're going to take off the large surface root on the front of the tree now. Turns out this root is still alive. Fortunately, well, maybe not. Nope, that's mostly deadwood, it looks like. Very pretty, but unfortunately we can't keep it because the tree's gonna have to sit higher up in the soil. Nope, there are live roots on the bottom there. So now we'll take off some of these smaller ones here. And that should pave the way for us to set the tree up a little higher. Now we just need to do a little more cleanup on the root ball, and we can start test fitting it into the new pot. Let's take a little water jet here. Let's see what we, oh. When we put soil into the new pot, we're going to mound it up on the front side so that we can get the tree to sit upright at the proper angle. I would prefer to avoid wiring the tree into the pot if it isn't necessary, simply because it's inconvenient and it's something that would have to be removed later in order to get the tree showable. And this tree already has a root ball that's pretty close to the right shape for the pot, so I don't think it's going to be necessary. Since we're not doing a full-on bare root soil change on this tree, we're close to being able to repot it. The problem now is it still leans too far forward, and we kind of need it to sit up like this. So we're going to try putting enough soil under it till we get it to where we want it, and then see about backfilling around it. We now have the tree in the position and angle that we want, and it sits very solidly in the pot. You see it from the side, it no longer has the forward lean that it used to have. And seen from the front, it looks much more stately and majestic than it did in the old pot at the old potted angle. So now we just need to backfill it with soil, water it, and it should be good for another year, and maybe eventually good enough to place in the shelf. The task of repotting is always watering. And we always run the water until we see a bit of soil residue wash out the bottom of the pot, because that lets us know that we've watered all the way through and haven't left any dry spots inside the soil. In that this is a fairly large bonsai, that may take a moment or two. Oh, there it is right there. Here is the newly repotted tree, finally sitting at the proper planting angle and in a pot much more suited to it. So we'll finish with our usual slow 360 to show you the tree from all sides. Thank you for watching, folks.